Hi everyone, it's me, Tim. Today I wanted to do a little bit of video game archaeology or paleontology. I don't know, game and ontology. Because I've been digging through my archives, which unfortunately only go back to 90, 91. So I've lost most of what I did at the first game company I worked at in Virginia, Pegasus Software, which turned into Cybron, where I made Grand Slam Bridge for Electronic Arts. I didn't take any notes on that. But before Fallout at Interplay, and before the game I made before Fallout, Rags to Riches, and before I was even an employee at Interplay, I was a contractor in 91 making Bard's Tale construction set. I was playing GURPS a lot with my friends at UCI, where I was still enrolled. I was still enrolled in the PhD program, which I was quickly becoming less enamored with. I wanted to start playing GURPS at Interplay. There were a lot of people there playing second edition AD&D, which I wasn't really that into. In fact, on all these books here, I think second edition is the only version of Dungeons and Dragons I don't own. So I wanted to teach them how to play GURPS, which I was playing. I was playing with this. This is my original GURPS third edition book, and I was playing this at UCI, and I was running a GURPS space campaign. This is the old space book, and there's a chapter in here, chapter 10, which explains how to make star systems. And there's a lot of roles and a lot of conditions and a lot of stuff that my Jello brain did not want to do. So I was like, let's automate this. So I had made, nowadays we'd call it an app, I had made a small computer program, and it was all text, the ugly. And Scott Everts at Interplay offered to do some art for it. Turned out to be such a cool looking little program that it's up on the net. You can still get it, the GURPS Star System Generator. But I'm going to show you what it was like. So you start it up. You pick what your tech level is. That little sphere is really a real 3D sphere. I was playing with mapping textures to spheres. So I'll select, I don't know, tech level 8. What it does is it then lets you pick what part of the galaxy that you want to explore. I'll pick the spiral arm, and boom, it generates a random sector in the spiral arm. It's a little slow. There we go. So you can click on any of the things here. If they're like, this is a catastrophic variable, no system there. But if you pick a star, which is just a dot, oh, that's a lost terrestrial planet. Good for it. If you pick a dot, it actually shows you the system. And you can click on anything. Oh, this one doesn't have any planets. It's just a double star. So what we can do is we can go back to the sector, and one thing I implemented was a filter, because it turns out it's really hard to find some things. So here, let's look for life. Boom. This system has life in it. So you go there and it generates all the planets. You can see the one that's in the life zone, and there's all the information about the planet. Doing this by hand, pain. This made it trivial. And I actually used this in my campaign, my space campaign. So that was fun to do, and it was actually an implementation of the GURPS rules. So this made me think, what else could I do? What else could I code? Because I had played a lot of GURPS, I would get into discussions, arguments, with friends who played about what the best attributes were to buy. And I was a firm believer that a dexterity was the best stat, far and above best, better than intelligence, better than strength, better than health, the best thing you could buy. So I ended up making a GURPS combat simulator. And I can show it to you really fast. It's ugly, so we're not going to look at it. There it is. You enter their passive defense, and then it does 1,000 rounds of combat between two different PCs who I believe these stats had to be hard coded in the game, in the code, because I didn't feel like entering data every time I ran it. Anyway, so I ran this combat simulator, and I even posted the results in Rec Games FRP GURPS. What I found, which was, yes, agility was the best, or dexterity was the best thing to have. In fact, what I found was, let me read it. So I had two people fight, both with broadswords, light leather, and a small shield, and each character was assumed to have put 1 point into the broadsword and shield skill. That's important because they're both dex skills, so the dexterity guy's going to have a way better skill with 1 point than the other ones. I ignored advantages and disadvantages, but I coded everything else. So there was stunning rules, knockdown, unconsciousness, and death. All those rules were followed. I also said that a 17 and 18 was always a miss. So here's what I found with setting all the stats to 10 and over 1,000 combats. An 18 dex character beat an 18 strength character 83% of the time. 83%. An 18 dex character beat an 18 health character 73% of the time. So health seemed to be better than strength. So I did an 18 health character versus an 18 strength character, meaning both of them have really bad broadsword and shield skills. And the health character beat the strength character 84% of the time. So then I was like, okay, I'm going to rerun it with 18 dex and see what strength it would take before they were roughly 50-50. It took a 25... I'm sorry, the first thing I did with health, it took a 25 health to balance an 18 dex. Those two characters roughly beat each other half the time. An 18 health was balanced by a 40 strength. That's what it took to make them parity. But what shocked me was an 18 dex was never balanced by any strength, no matter how high. And this was because the dex character hit the strength character so often, reducing their chance of hitting back, that even though those hits would have done a lot of damage, they never landed. Either they rolled really low, or they would have hit, but then the 18 dex character just dodged or parried or blocked. Now it's interesting, if you start adding advantages into this, like high pain threshold or combat reflexes, yeah, then you could see that the strength character had a chance. But this was one of the things that made me go, this is not what I expected. Later, if I ever talk about GURPS being in Fallout, these were things we ran into making GURPS Fallout. That there were things that were hard for us to balance for because they were endemic to the system. Same thing happened to me years later when I made Temple of Elemental Evil. When you make a computer version of a paper and pencil game, you really start to see where some of the mini-max areas are. But that's not the last GURPS app I made. So we started playing GURPS at Interplay. Usually in the evenings, starting around 7 or 8, people would run different campaigns. I ran a campaign. Chris Taylor ran a campaign. Scott Campbell made a campaign. So there were a lot of ones running. Because character creation is a little complicated in GURPS, and everybody was running using different books, I made a GURPS character editor. So I automated character creation. And I made it so it could read in the advantages and disadvantages and skills from external text files. So if you were running a GURPS space campaign, you could add space skills and space advantages. If you were running fantasy, you could pull in the advantages and disadvantages and skills from GURPS fantasies and spells. So it was really fun, and I want to show you because I found it. I love that you can run old software from Windows. So here it is. It's ugly. I thought it was cute. It was sandstone. So there are your attributes, and you can raise them, and you can see down in the bottom right, it keeps track of their point total. And below, it's adjusting all the attributes that depend on your your base attributes. There are all the advantages. I think I did the basic set. So you could buy those. The points go in. You can buy disadvantages. Though there's a whole bunch of those. We could that gives you back points. You could also buy skills. And one thing I was really proud of in 1991 was keeping track of half points as 1/2 and not 0.5. So you can see I'll buy short sword and I'll buy it there. I have a half a point in it. And you even see at the bottom there's half points. I can increase it, keeps track of all that. And this was something that started getting used a lot. People were making characters to play. GMs were using it to make NPCs for their campaigns. And in fact, Scott Campbell made a very similar automation for GURPS vehicles that let you make any kind of vehicle you wanted. So GURPS had gotten really popular at Interplay. And that was the environment in 1994, when it was announced that we were looking to pick up an RPG license. And that's why I was so gung-ho about getting GURPS. I already had these 3 apps between the Combat one and the Character Editor one. I had a lot of GURPS already coded. And they were all done as libraries, so I could drop them in and we could get started right away on GURPS Fallout. And that ended up what happened. But I wanted you to see kind of where Fallout came from, because I'm amazed that A, I have these executables, and B, they're running on Windows 10 in 2023. Thanks, Microsoft.